So let's look at multi-step equations where basically you have more than two steps. And this is where the variable is only on one side of the equation. Okay. So a very basic one is like this. So basically, what you're going to have to do with multi-step equations is some sort of simplification. The vast majority of the time, it's combining like terms or some sort of distribution or combination of both. So what we're looking to do is treat one side of the equation like an expression and simplify it down, then start the actual solving, which is the introduction of our properties of equality, adding to both sides or subtracting to both sides. So let's look at this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify the left hand side. I'm going to combine like terms right there. So now I've got, because the x's are the same, right? So I can combine those terms. Now I can use the subtraction property of equality. Subtract 7 to both sides. So 70 minus 7 is 63. Then I will divide both sides by 7, right? Because the opposite of multiplying, and then x equals 9. So in this one here, there's no combined like terms, but there is distribution property on the left hand. So I'm going to distribute that 5, right? So 5 times 2 is 10, and 5 times -8 is -40. Now I'll use my addition property, add a 40 to both sides. That's a 0 pair. Bring down the 10x. Then I will divide both sides by 10. Division property, and x equals 7. Here I got distribution again. I know it's a fraction, but everything will divide out evenly, so this won't actually be that bad. So I'm going to multiply 1/5 times 15 and then times 10. So I went ahead and put these over 1. So really, I got to just multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and then come over here and do the same thing. So 10 times 1 and 5 times 1. So when I do that, it ends up being this. And you can see these all reduce nicely. So I get 3x minus 2. Add 2 to both sides using the addition property of equality. Right? Those add up to 0. Divide both sides by 3 using division property of equality. And x equals 7. You can see it has that kind of funneling technique as it kind of goes from wide to narrow. All right, so this is one that is, a lot of people are going to miss this because the first thing they're going to do is 8 minus 3. But when it comes to simplification, right, you have to follow order of operations. So I need to do any kind of multiplication for subtraction, and distribution is considered multiplication. I'm going to multiply that -3, not a 3, -3, right? So I get a positive 15 right here. Now I'm going to combine like terms. The 8 and the positive 15 are alike, so I just went and wrote those next to each other. Combine those, then I'm done simplifying. I'm going to subtract 23 to both sides, use the subtraction property of equality. Those add up to 0, the 23 and the -23, and then I can divide both sides by -3. Right, those reduce to a 1, and x equals 9. Okay. All right, so in this case, we have two sets of distribution. So I'm going to distribute the 4 times the 5x plus 6, and then the 5 is going to be distributed to 2x plus 1. That's multiplication. Now I'm going to look to combine like terms. So the 20x and the 10x are alike, and the 24 and the 5 are alike. And I'm actually going to combine those and add those together. So I get 30x plus 29 equals -1. I will subtract 29 on both sides, right? Then I would divide both sides by a 30, and x equals -1. All right, so now we got brackets and parentheses. So remember, we're going to simplify one side before we do anything. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to look for order of operations. I'm going to look for parentheses and grouping symbols. So I've got two parentheses and then the brackets. The brackets are kind of square-looking ones. So they're really the same. It's just two ways to differentiate which ones go with which. So I'm gonna look for the outermost. That's the brackets. I'm gonna do everything inside, and then inside of there. I'm gonna do the parentheses inside of there. Well, there's really nothing to do. So I'm gonna do everything inside this bracket to this bracket. So that tells me the first thing to do is multiply using the distributive property, which is multiplying a -1 right there. Okay. Now I'm gonna still do this bracket here. I'm gonna combine like terms. There, you could do this a couple different ways, but so I went ahead and put the ones that are like the 8x and the -x. All right. I'm going to go ahead and add the opposite right there. So I do plus -2. This is kind of thing where you could do a lot of this in your head, right? So I get a 7x, and then these add to 4. Now from here, these are just like parentheses. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute that in. You have a couple options there too. I'm just kind of doing it the most common way. Then I'll subtract 12 to both sides. Right? If I do that, bring down the 21x, divide both sides by 21. Right? And I get x equals 2.